This subject is all about the relationship between politicians and cops and how this is creating an environment of fear in today's India. I'll start with Mr. Mahanta because he has been dealing with one of the most exciting chief ministers and political characters of India at the moment. So how many times in a day you get calls from the CM to do this and do that?
I do get calls from the Honorable Chief Minister Assam, but not to do this and not to do that. Most calls are pertaining to how about doing this. Is it possible to carry forward this particular mission? Or something that I have given him an idea about. He gets back to me saying that, well, I think I've
It's possible to do an encounter, that kind of questions? Because Assam has made very good record on encounter killing since Dr. Sharma has taken charge. 51 encounters and 139 injured, 51 killed. So the questions are related to that whether this is possible to do another encounter?
Well, Assam has been at this kind of a situation like, encounter. You can't merely trivialize it, You need to think about the insurgency situation that's been in Assam for last couple of decades, I would say, from 2005 itself. The number of encounters that have been, police has been doing with extremists basically is to safeguard the integrity and sovereignty of this country primarily. And if somebody fires at you, we've been telling our policemen to fire back, of course, and not to accept the bullet. Despite that fact, we've lost as many as 403 numbers of policemen ever since 85.
That doesn't give you the license to kill an innocent person who hasn't been, hasn't been proved guilty by the court.
We are very cognizant of the fact that any action by the police personnel is subject to scrutiny by the honorable judiciary and also entire other bodies. If a police person indulges in any kind of illegal activity like killing a person for the heck of killing or something, then he or she is liable to be, punished as per the law of the land. And only yesterday I have signed 2 number of prosecution sanctions, meting out punishment to the police personnel for having indulged in things like that. And I've been lucky that despite having so many encounters since 2005, Assam police hasn't been held responsible for doing something wrong or killing individuals that ought not to have been killed.
I'll come back to you on that note also. I'd like to come to Mr. Pura Kayastha because you had been in charge of this state. You were advisor to the CM also. What makes West Bengal particularly a violent state? I'm saying this in terms of political violence. West Bengal has very good records in terms of probably crime detection. Its charge sitting and conviction rates are pretty good. But when it comes to political violence, you have a track record of violence. And in terms, if we look at the latest NCRB data, you are number 2 with 117 killings next to Bihar in terms of political killings, 2020. What makes it the state so violent?
Well, I think, first of all, most of these are media hypes. Because political violence as such, it is something which has always been, there is an attributed to West Bengal, which all the time it doesn't take place. Actually, there are many killings which are based out of personal rivalry. And many a times we find that it is being attributed to political violence. And to be very honest, in our state, whenever there is any such issue, this is one state where every case is dealt with the right kind of, investigative procedures. There are also sometimes, people say people are not taking FIR, which is not correct. There is no such incident where a case, where an incident has taken place and FIR has not been taken. But at the same time, let me tell you, like we are actually thinking, your topic is a road to reforms, but you have come directly to politics. I think reforms is also very important.
Because the reform is stalled only because of politics. In 2006, the Supreme Court ordered reforms, and because of political will or lack of will, it hasn't happened yet.
But Mr. Kaushik, let me tell you, we are probably taking this political thing with a little bit of myopic idea. You know, police has so many things to do. There are so many things that we have to do every day. If I give you a statistics, in West Bengal itself, in a year, there will be few crore general diaries. There will be millions of FIRs which are registered all over India. Every bit of these general diaries is the interaction of the police with the public. So those are the things which we should look at. Police is doing traffic duty, police is doing festival duties, police is doing duties when there is a lot of sports activities. Everywhere you can see police. We don't see that part. Why should we specifically focus only on politics? Yes, politics is one part, but then police is doing so many other things. And not only in Bengal, I'm talking all over India. There is a tendency to, put the police on the, as a punching bag. It should not happen like this. Police also has a huge contribution to the society. And can you think of one day if there is no police in the society? So I think we should also look at the positive side of what police is doing.
Sir, nobody is disputing the contribution of police force to the society, but the issue here is that police is also doing too many things which are probably not mandated, like giving security to all and sundry, which is causing a huge manpower crunch. And as you said, the reforms, these things are not happening. Many other things that are required, political sanction is not coming. I'll come to Mr. Chakraborty. You had an interesting stint because when you were Kolkata Police Commissioner, the current CM was once thrown out of the writers' building because he was holding a dharna. Anyway, you have worked under the previous regime.
I was not the Commissioner of Police at that point of time.
I found that record, but maybe I'm wrong. But you worked under both governments. You were Deputy Commissioner, I believe.
Yes, I was a Deputy Commissioner of Police that time, and I really worked under both the governments.
Yeah.
Both under the left front as well as under the TMC government.
So have you seen any difference in the approach towards police in these two regimes, and did you find any difficulty because at that point of time the current CM was an opposition leader, and when she came back as the Chief Minister, did you see that some kind of vindictive approach or any specific targeting? Do you see that happens by the political establishment?
No, I did not see any vindictive attitude, when the former opposition leader became the Chief Minister of the state. I didn't find any. But of course, the total approach to the administration, that always changes, when the opposition leader becomes, the Chief Minister of a state or the Prime Minister of the country. Obviously, there will be certain changes, in somebody's outlook. But that apart, I did not find, anything which you can term as vindictiveness or trying to find. But, I think, again, we are digressing, Kaushik, what Surajit was trying to point out and Mr. Mahanta also said. Let's talk about police reforms. I can find our Honorable MP Shogoto Babu seated here, another MP, she also left just now, and I find that in your discussions, you have a large number of politicians of all the parties joining in. I'd request you, why don't you ask them that are they really serious about giving functional autonomy to police? Because that's, what was mandated by the Honorable Supreme Court in the year 2006. And very recently, a study was made on all the states of the country. And it was found that none of the states, don't talk about one state here, one state in Assam, no. None of the states fully complied with the 2006 7-point directives ordered by the Supreme Court of India. If that is done, police is giving functional autonomy. I think the performance of police in the country, again, I'm not talking about any state, not state-specific, country-wise, performance of police will improve a lot.
Your point taken, sir, but at the same time, in the current situation, the Constitution and the laws give enough protection to a police officer who can survive without political interference. The problem is that because the politicians, and that is the maximum punishment, I guess, can transfer a police person to a difficult area, most of the policemen, they try to cope with the political pressure or try to go with the political will. Don't you think the without even the reforms, of course the reforms are needed, but in the current system also, they are being, they allow themselves to be used by the politicians?
Not really, Mr. Kaushik. What you were talking about, that could be true to, one or two individuals. But generally, if you talk about the system, if the system functions, every single individual functions. So unless you change the system, as a whole, how do you expect that one particular person will stand up? Even if he stands up, the system will not change. See, what was suggested by the Supreme Court, if you just recollect, that famous 2006 orders, it said very specifically that there will be state security commissions and national security commission. Where do you find those? Even if there is a national security commission, I find that, in Government of India, they have constituted, but that consists only of the Union Home Minister and government officials. What was thought of? Some kind of a buffer between the police and the politicians, so that police can have functional autonomy. Because you must understand one thing, that police job, what's the job of police? Just 1 second, just 1 second. It's about maintenance of law. If you talk about maintenance of law, it's a professional job. Can you ever imagine that, the Honorable Minister of Defense sitting in Delhi asking the army commanders about the war tactics? As it is not done there, similarly, I would expect the politicians, both in the state and the center, not to dictate. Police has to do their functional job.
I'm sorry, I wanted to dig deep into this subject, but as we can see, it's 0-0-0. So we'll have to end this discussion
I'm so sorry about
here.
it. I didn't see
But
that.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
Taking
India
the
Today.
cue from where he left, I'll just come up with one thing. You guys refuse to see the silver lining.
Very short,
Very short.
one-line answer.
You refuse to see the Honorable Chief Minister Assam, on the first cabinet meeting of his, he had invited me to address to be there in his cabinet meeting, where he had told his cabinet colleagues who were the ministers in no uncertain terms that ever from now onwards, there will be absolutely no political interference.
India
in
Today,
BJP's
India Today
work.
magazine has
Ever
written
since-
about it, sir.
Ever
It
since
has
we've
been
been
covered, sir.
posting.
I agree, but
Police-
we'll have to end this discussion here. I'm very sorry.
But
Thank
silver
you,
lining
gentlemen,
you got
for
to see
joining
too.
India Today Conclave. It was wonderful having you all here. Thank you.